winter of 2020, and for the third year in a row, I'm heading back to Death Valley National Park. Death Valley is a land of extremes, and at times you wonder, how can life survive there? The extremities can also serve as a reminder to assess one's life and perspective of it. I know every time that I come here, I try and connect with this land and dig deep into the depths of my own mind. Photography is the main focus on these trips, but I always come away with something of much more value to my life. It's almost 4 a.m. and I've missed my alarm by about an hour, and so I'm cautiously and eagerly driving from Las Vegas to Death Valley, hoping that I make it in time to photograph sunrise. This is the story of my 2020 Death Valley trip. Well, it is late January, and it is now the year 2020, and I have come back to Death Valley for the third year in a row. And this is my third overall day here in the park, and it is my first day that I've decided to begin filming. So I've come to a location here in the Badwater area for sunrise after a last-minute change of plans. So I've just pretty much found my composition for the morning, so I'm going to just finish setting up real quick, and then I'll walk you through the composition and tell you a little bit of a story about what the original plan was and why I find myself now here in Badwater frantically trying to look for a last-minute photo. Well, my original plan this morning was to actually continue the same tradition that I've continued for the last 3 years, where I begin my Death Valley trip, or the portion of my filming in Death Valley, in Dante's View for sunrise. And I did check the roads to just make sure that that road was open, and as of yesterday morning it was. But when I drove up there this morning, it was unfortunately closed. So that was about 5 a.m. or so, and sunrise is at 6:55. So I quickly had to make a decision whether to just completely throw the towel on photographing anything for sunrise, or trying to find another composition somewhere else. And so that's when I decided to weigh my options, and I figured that I had to find something quick and relatively close to the road. And so I decided on Badwater to come out here to this area and to basically hopefully photograph something taking advantage of the distant salt patterns that are here found in this area. And basically I've set up a composition, so I'm going to just finish working out the settings for that, which I'll walk you through shortly. But that's just a little bit of a story as to why I'm here in Badwater, and unfortunately why there was a last minute change of plans. And hopefully at some point during this trip I'll be able to go back up to Dante's View, but as of right now, this is where I find myself, so I'm gonna try and make the best of the situation. And I've set up this composition, as you'll be able to see. It is at f11, focused all the way to infinity, out in the mountains that are glowing very beautifully in this very, very light yellow and kind of some deep blue tones to it. So it's really just the yellow and the blue tones working together in quite a nice harmonious balance with the just salt formations out in the background. It's quite a minimal image, I would think, and say, but yeah, I think it's gonna work out nicely. And you know, for frantically finding an image last minute, I think it's not too bad. So I'm gonna go ahead, photograph it now. I am using a 3-stop soft edge grad just to control the highlights in this image. I really don't want to bracket, and so I'm utilizing that filter for that reason. So f11, 3-stop soft edge grad. Gonna go ahead, take the photo now, and you know, we'll see if there's anything else left to explore this morning. It's funny the thoughts that can creep into my mind on these photography trips so early on. I left my sunrise location that morning and began driving back to the Furnace Creek area, thinking perhaps I had doomed the remainder of my trip by starting things out so panicked and rushed. I needed to regain a clear state of mind and refocus. I decided for sunset to explore a new location in hopes of finding a composition and give myself plenty of time to do so. I much more prefer moving at a slow pace when it comes to my photography. So after a good little nap and some breakfast / lunch, I definitely had a decision I had to make, whether to location scout or get to my sunset location early enough to feel like I had enough time to just find a decent composition and just wait for the light. So I went ahead and decided to come to my sunset spot first, and that way I can just have enough time to wander around and find something for tonight. Because if you can see behind me, since the morning time, we have gotten quite a bit of clouds suddenly appearing here in the valley. So that's what I'm doing now, hoping to find a decent composition or two for tonight. This is an area that I scouted last night, and it is absolutely beautiful. So very similar to the Badwater area, this area here of Death Valley is one that I've explored for the last 2 years, but I've actually never had a chance to photograph it for some reason. I've always just missed the opportunity. And it's another very low elevation point of the park, but the great thing is here's where you will find the really the highest concentration of water. And there's just Death Valley had some rain about a week ago, and so there's still certain areas here that have some beautiful patches of water, creating some awesome leading lines all around. As you can see, this is an absolutely beautiful area, and it's the right time of year too, because it must have just rained about a week or two ago, and so there's just certain areas here that are slightly flooded and creating those beautiful puddles of water on the foreground. The issue that I'm having though, as I walk around and explore this entire area, is really just trying to narrow down a composition for this evening. And I think I've got a few choices. I can either set up a composition with the puddles of water in my foreground looking onto the mountains, or I can basically try and find a different composition focusing on these dry salt formations here, which this area is, I think, more known for this than the puddles here that we're finding of water. And so what I may do is I may try and find a composition of that and have something fairly close to whatever image I set up of these salt pans here. So I'm going to explore a little more. I still have enough time to do that. That's again one of the good things about getting to your sunset location with enough time. It's still incredibly bright out, and so everything is just quite harsh as far as the light goes still right now. So yeah, just going to continue walking around, and I am going to try my best to settle on one composition. And again, if I have the time to do it, and if the conditions work out, I may find a second composition to then rush over to and photograph it. But yeah, a lot of choices. It's not a bad thing to have a lot of choices, but it's tough whenever you're in an area that's so beautiful and there's so much. The cloud formations and the light that we're getting right now is fantastic because it's just this nice soft light, and I think it is gonna blow up here in just a moment. I think we're gonna get quite the display of colors in the sky, but right now towards the horizon and all these areas here of water puddles, I'm just basically taking advantage of this beautiful soft light and scenery. It's just creating a beautiful, beautiful glow in the foreground with these purples and yellows and oranges, and it's just very soft, the kind of light that I really, really enjoy. So I framed up this other composition. I still have a 3-stop soft edge grad, and yeah, it's just these water formations are leading your eye to the background in the distance in the mountains and F13. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead, take the image now for one more copy, and then I may try and find another composition or two, because yeah, it's turning out to be quite a glorious evening. So I hope you enjoyed that image, and you'll know if anything worked out at all from this evening before I do, so hopefully it does. But you know, the color's really burning behind me, and I don't know if you can see it because my face has to be exposed, so the background's probably overexposed, but it's really, it's a wonderful light show right now towards over towards the east behind me, but I'm not really wanting to go for that right now, at least. There's some beautiful soft pink blue tones right now over towards this direction, and I'm actually standing in a really, really iffy spot, but I'm just in the middle of all of these water puddles, and you know, just out in the distance, the mountains are glowing right now in this deep blue color, and just the pinks and the purples right now are reflecting beautifully on the water, and again, it's just really nice soft tones, which I really, really love. You know, it's a beautiful light show behind me, but I'm really not a huge fan of the sky blowing up. So for this image, I've actually switched to F11, and I may even bracket my exposures just to have even more control of the overall tonality. So F11, shutter release cable, and yeah, another hopefully beautiful image. the light may have been really special behind me, but I'm actually really glad that I stuck to this final composition of the evening, because this is actually what I was after. These deep blue tones, dark, moody, where you can really pretty much at this point barely see the mountains out in the distance. It is getting quite dark, so I've got to get going and back to my car because I have about a 2-mile hike back. But I wanted to wait for the right time, and I wanted to stay put in this place here. But anyways, just to walk you through this final composition now. The scene here, what I've done is I've come to an area where the salt patterns are a lot more dry. But in the near foreground, we have these dry salt patterns and these very beautiful shapes. But just about a third of the way into the frame, I also do have a pool of water, which is reflecting quite beautifully, and just emphasizing I think the overall composition. And then the mountains in the background, which you can really just barely see right now at this point, but that's exactly what I wanted in this image. I think there's a lot to learn from this evening, for me at least, about just patience and perseverance. It's my third day here in Death Valley, and I just kind of felt up to this point that I've been not very productive in terms of images, so it's nice to have a really wonderful morning to complement all that. So the aperture, f11, no filters at this point, no filters are needed, still focused out to infinity, and just gonna go ahead, press the shutter release cable, take the image now. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you can consider supporting my photography journey by subscribing to my channel and visiting my website at diegomccartney.com, where you will find my portfolio and prints for sale. I look forward to sharing the rest of my trip. Thank you again, and until next time.